Welcome to this special interview with Counterpoints on Arabiya English. I'm Melinda Nusafora, coming to you from the NATO Leaders Summit in The Hague. Well, NATO 2025 has been largely dominated by discussions of boosted military spending. And one country at the forefront of that urgent need is Latvia. It lies on the border with Russia and on NATO's eastern flank. So to discuss military spending, conflicts in the NATO landscape and broader global developments, I'm joined by Latvia's Defence Minister, Andris Spruds. Thank you for your time, Minister.
Thank you for having me.
How would you assess this NATO Leaders Summit? We've heard it being described as one of the most consequential in recent history. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree. This has been a formative summit, back to roots, all for one for all, with increased defense spending, with common threat assessment, with understanding that to protect our territories and people, you need to spend more. You need to make alliance more efficient, more lethal to address those challenges. It's first of all about Russia, but it's not just about Russia. We see developments in the Middle East, we see developments in the Pacific. China is on the rise with some challenging nature in this regard, so we need to address all those global challenges together as one alliance. So that's why also we have to commit more spending, which means more capabilities.
You mentioned broader global conflicts, Middle East, for example. We've also heard the Secretary General making reference to how interconnected global conflicts are. With that in mind, can you see an expanded remit, an expanded operation for NATO, maybe more active in the Middle East?
First of all, it is a collective defense alliance defending NATO's territory. So it's 32 members, 32 countries which should be defended. So above all, the primary task is, if we go back to our roots, collective defense. At the same time, it's not excluded that in different coalitions of the willing, and I would add coalitions of the able, are also actively participating or acting more globally as well. But this would most likely not be direct aim, direct goal of the NATO mission or NATO as an organization. So collective defense is above all.
Because you've mentioned collective defence, I'm going to come to a question I was going to ask a little bit later, but I'll move it up. We have heard comments from President Donald Trump putting a question mark over Article 5. Do you feel confident in Latvia that if you had a direct threat from Russia, for example, on your border, that the US would come to your defence?
Yes, we are confident. Also in declaration, it's clearly underlined, clearly stated, commitment to the Article 5. Article 5 is one for all for one. It is about collective defense. It is about solidarity. But solidarity which must be based in a common spending and a common capabilities, in common threat perception. Russia is a threat to all of us. Russia will remain a threat to all of us. This has been also underlined in the declaration, which are the most important words in this regard. Solidarity is there, and the financial investment shows the willingness to deal together and also willingness to make the alliance stronger, more efficient, more lethal.
So President Trump's comments didn't make you concerned?
There have been a number of comments from time to time. I think the most important is not always focus on every comment. The most important is focus on the common activities, on common deeds, on common works what we are doing, not just focus on some of the comments.
A big focus, obviously, of this NATO summit has been the agreement to boost military spending, as you've been discussing. Latvia is at the forefront of NATO's defence. So how would you like to see that increased money spent? Where do you think the biggest need is for NATO?
First of all, there must be the common understanding what we are all facing. There is one NATO, there are no several NATOs. There is no less secure countries or more secure countries. This has been also underlined in this summit that attack against one country means attack against all member states. Article 5. Article 5 is strong and remains as a basic principle of our alliance. At the same time, yes, spending is crucial. Spending is crucial for our capability development. Latvia spends already this year almost 4%. Next year we're approaching 5%. We are committed to increase that spending. We are committed to achieve our capability target goals, because it is important that it's not just about the spending as such. It is about the tool, a step towards a more lethal, more capable alliance, which also means that we can fulfill our regional defense plans very specifically, very practically. So that's why the spending is just one step towards implementation. So delivery is crucial. Also with partnership of the industry, military industry, defense industry, absolutely the partners in common effort of making capable alliance.
You say making NATO more lethal. Do you envisage Europe at the moment as being on a war footing?
We are moving to this. I would say glass is half full in terms of understanding. In terms of agreeing that Europeans must step up, and we saw that demonstration today, that we are stepping up now with the commitments in a longer-term perspective, but many countries will be on a fast footing and will be doing it even sooner, like the Baltic countries, and not only. Still on practical level, there are things to be done. I would say there is sometimes glass half empty on a practical implementation, but in terms of understanding, in terms of the common vision, in terms of the common declaratory commitment, this has been already the success, and we are moving towards the understanding that Europeans must step up, must contribute, must play a bigger role on European continent. Also supporting Ukraine.
On Ukraine, do you feel like Ukraine has been sidelined a little bit at this NATO summit?
Ukraine is one of the top priorities. Ukraine has been also included, support for Ukraine has been included in the final declaration, which is important. There have been meetings.
We didn't see Zelensky invited to the leaders' summit, not addressing the leaders as he has done in previous summits, though.
There have been different formats, and the most important at the very end, it's a practical support, practical solutions. And again, what Europeans are doing, Europeans are stepping up. This is important to contribute financially, militarily, strategically. Latvia certainly will continue its support. Latvia supports Ukraine's NATO and EU membership, but also before we saw some disagreements or some diversity, to be more precise. Already before we saw the formula, Ukraine will be NATO member when allies agree and conditions allow. It seems that allies didn't agree previously, and still we are forming the common agreement right now as well. But support goes on, financially, militarily, through different institutions, through the coalition of the willing. So Ukraine is, of course, high on agenda.
The conflict between Iran and Israel has loomed large over this summit, even though they aren't NATO members themselves. Do you see Iran as being a direct threat to NATO countries, given their alliance with Russia?
What is direct threat? It is revisionism or revisionist countries which are willing to undermine the global order, the countries which are aspiring illegally for nuclear weapons. Iran has demonstrated its ambition to go in that direction. That's why we can fully justify and understand what also the United States have done with regard to that nuclear program by the revisionist state, which could undermine a more regional and global stability.
So do you think that the US's actions has made NATO and European countries safer?
Yes, to put it short, yes, because we have to show the strengths. We have to negotiate and act from positions of strength with regard to Russia, with regard to China, with regard also Iran, that there is a clarity in our words, and there is also clarity and consequence in what we are doing with our deeds.
Some of President Trump's allies have suggested that his brokering of a ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel warrants a Nobel Peace Prize. What do you make of those suggestions?
Well, if the peace has been established in a wider Middle East, of course, those ambitions and those efforts can certainly be commended. I would not perhaps make immediate comment on some of the specific prizes, but I think such efforts to stabilize the region and to make peace among nations certainly is commendable.
If I can just turn you back to direct NATO military spending at the moment, if you were to have a wish list of what you would like that increased defence spending to go into purchasing, is it cyber security? Is it advanced intelligence weapons? If you had a wish list of what you want that money to be spent on,
how many can go in the wish list?
You can have three.
Three, okay. Of course, there are a number of activities, number of capabilities which we have to develop. So it's a wide spectrum. But I would underline what we also see from experience, from the lessons in Ukraine. Air defenses are crucial. The new technologies such as drone or counter-drone technologies are crucial, and everything which makes our units stronger, more mobile, more mechanized, more with a firepower, this is important. So of course that is a spectrum. At the same time, yes, as you mentioned, the cyber security, the space is on rise. It will be increasingly important. So that's why let's not forget, let's look actually in the new venues, new challenges which we'll all be facing as well. So that's why yes, we focus on now capabilities which are defined by NATO, but realizing what could be the future warfare as well.
And just finally, Minister, would you say this has been a successful summit? There were tensions going in, uncertainties about how certain aspects would play out. Would you mark 2025 NATO summit as a success?
Yes, it has been a success story. As I mentioned, we have come back to our roots. Collective defense is crucial. Collective defense of our people, of the alliance as such, with a strong emphasis on innovation and industry, with clearly identifying what is also the threat. Also with support to Ukraine, this has been a success story.
It's good to...
It doesn't mean that we don't have to move forward. The implementation must follow. So yes, success, but certainly with a lot of commitment and a lot of responsibility.
Okay, well then I just want to ask you one final question on that then, because you mentioned commitment. Latvia is already meeting close to that 5% commitment, yes, which doesn't kick in until 2035, I believe. Are you confident that your other NATO members will step up? Because at the moment, a lot of NATO countries don't even meet the 2% that was agreed to back in 2014.
This year, everybody meets 2%, which also means that there has been this understanding to move forward quickly. We will fulfill our commitments shortly. We are moving very quickly towards our 5%. We'll be encouraging our partners and members of the alliance to do it as soon as possible, because urgency is also one of the key words. We have to be capable, and it must be achieved with urgency principle at hand.
Because NATO Secretary General says within 3 to 5 years there could be an attack from Russia. Is that very real?
We should be ready for any attack. We should be ready to fight tonight. So 3-5 years, it is assessing the trajectories of Russian industrial rearmament, but we have to be ready to fight tonight. So that's why it is urgent. It is tonight, it is today, it is tomorrow when we have to contribute, we have to commit, and we have to spend more on our capabilities. We have to be capable as soon as possible. We are today, but it is an ongoing process.
Latvia's Defence Minister Andris Spruds, thank you for joining us here on Counterpoints on Al Arabiya English.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.